And this is Back Home with John until 7:30. Well, now for today's special guests. I have two of them in the studio. We're going to hear about the 33rd season of the broadcasting of football matches from Kenilworth Road, the home of the Hatters, of course, to Luton and District Hospitals. With me in the studio, two commentators. One is Roy Shackleton, and the other one is a former Luton Town goalkeeper, Tony Reid. Good afternoon. Welcome both.
Good afternoon, John.
Nice to see you. We ought to talk about those very early days, 33 years ago. How was it and why was it set up?
Well, I think going back that time, around about the 50s, there was a lot of interest in football. Probably if you compare the attendance figures with then and today, you'll see a great difference. And in Bristol, the Bristol area, the TOC-H branch there was very concerned to do something for the people in hospital. And they came up with the idea of broadcasting a 90-minute commentary to the local patients. And that spread, and we heard about it in Luton, and at that time I was involved in the Luton branch as job master, that's what they called me, finding out jobs of service. And we thought, yes, we'll try this. And we approached Luton Town Football Club. We approached a well-known name in Luton, Charlie Jays, who was then the chairman, and he said, yes, we'll give you facilities, we won't give you money, but we'll give you a position, and if you can start the thing off, okay. So the scheme was set up. Round table of Luton in those days, a chap called Arthur Buck was very involved. We met, discussed it, said we'd go ahead, and so the scheme was off and running.
So hang on, I've just worked out here that you must have been commentating on Tony Reid's performance long before he joined you.
Oh, yes, indeed. I must have many peculiar things I said about Tony when he was down there in his green shirt. Maybe he wouldn't forgive me for some things I've said, but I've always tried to be honest and fair, and even when he made a boob, I said I think that perhaps Tony was unsighted.
Tony, as a member of the club, were you aware of these guys broadcasting to the hospitals?
We always knew there was a broadcast going out, yeah. But when you're playing, you don't really think about it. I mean, when the televised matches were on, and especially an important game, I think a lot of players sort of like it. They enjoy it.
Did you really say anything bad about Tony?
Well, not really, John. We were fair about it. I remember one or two boobs he made with high crosses. They called him Dracula. He couldn't stand the sight of a high cross. But apart from that, no, we were very fair. And I suppose I ought to mention the classic occasion.
Go on, yes, do.
When the announcer said the Luton team and number 9, Tony Reid, the whole press said, what? Reid playing up front? And I said to the public, I'm not sure how this young man's going to shape at centre forward. He's not a bad goalkeeper. And he bangs in 3 goals, hat-trick.
I don't think the goalkeeper's ever been playing again, actually. I don't think he's ever got a game.
Well, that was a day to remember with Tony. And
I always say to the people who criticise anything, I mean, like Roy, if he criticised me, I always turn back and say to them, I've been criticised by 30,000, so one doesn't make any difference.
Can I just say this, John? When we're working together, if the goalkeeper makes an error and I happen to mention it, Tony will immediately defend the goalkeeper.
I'm not surprised.
Either unsighted or something like that, but we do a cross-talk act very often. He comes to the defence of his fellow professionals.
I think Les Seeley's got a very good friend in me, actually.
Yes, I think he has. And in me too, yes. But when the early days, John, when it started off, would you like to know where we operated from? Because there's a story in that.
Well, hang on, hold hard a second, because I want to just point out to everybody that you're doing a pretty good double act now. And the thing from your point of view, Tony, is that it must be nice, in a way. You spent 8 years with the club. It must be nice to be able to go back regularly and feel, in a way, as if you're actually taking part.
Yes, it is. It's a very, very nice way to be involved. I'm very, very much involved with the club. I think my ties are just as strong as they ever were. And I've got a lot of feeling for Luton Town Football Club, and I can't see that feeling ever sort of decreasing in any way at all.
When you were playing regularly, you had the chance to move to Millwall, you were saying, and you chose not to.
I chose to finish at Luton. I had 8 years, very happy 8 years. And when I look back, when you see the gates now, it's very disappointing, but when the last big game was against Arsenal, and I was playing, there was 20-odd thousand people there.
Yes, wow. I remember that well. Very well.
Well, let's talk about the ground. As you walk into Kenilworth Road, where should people look next time they go in if they want to see you two sitting there?
Well, they probably won't see us behind the sort of clouded glass, but we're at the back of the main stand, a sort of long, elongated greenhouse built at the back of the main stand, where there's the ground control, the PR for the ground, the VDU, the thing that gives the scores, and little men jumping up and down when Luton score, and the commentators. So we're in a glass box, which is very nice in the winter when it's cold outside because of a nice heater. It's a very pleasant situation, very different to the early days.
And the early days were spent outside on the press bench.
Well, the club said when we started in '54 that we could have what was the projection of the open press box. hanging right over the spectators. And it was very exposed, it was very cold, there was no protection. We tried to put up perspex screens, it didn't work. And I've sat there with snow on my hair and snow on my ears and freezing feet, and today is living in the lecture luxury. But what we did get in those days, of course, was much more participation from the crowd. They were all round us, and a few stories about that too.
Didn't somebody reach over and threaten your life or something because of something you'd said about one of his players?
I wouldn't say threaten my life, but Stan Callis was the manager of Wolves, and Billy Wright was playing centre-half, and Bob Morton was Luton centre-forward. And Billy Wright brought up a couple of very nasty tackles, and I referred to him as a clumsy ox. The next thing I knew was a hand on my shoulder and a stream of abusive language, and the manager of Wolves breathing down my neck and threatening fire and brimstone. But I carried on talking, and eventually he went away.
We shall pause there for a piece of music and the traffic news and come back and talk some more in just a second. Back in 60 minutes, though. So 12 minutes to 5. Before we go back to Tony and Roy, let's listen to a bit of the commentary as heard in the Luton and District Hospitals.
Luton now have the throw, and it's Breaker coming across to take the throw on the far side. So Tim Breaker comes across, Breaker takes the throw, gets the return ball, punts the ball upfield. Brian Steen trying to get to heads it on. Harford, back to Steen, Steen again. Turns round nicely, got a lot of room to work in. Steen puts a square ball across, picks up Ashley Grimes, opening up this defence of Wigan. Ashley Grimes going in for a pot himself as he rather took it too late, was barged off the ball, goes into play it again, comes back. Out on the far side to Weir doesn't beat his man this time, he's tackled, and there's Campbell, the centre-half, right back, centre-forward, right back there for Wigan. Wigan trying to work it down the left flank, and a long, long ball comes back into the arms of goalkeeper Beasley. Beasley rolls it out. Fair thrown out to Beasley. Beasley trying to pick a spot down the field, trying to get the wing going, with Cameron out, and that's another play for Wigan. Yes, they're all back there, the whole Wigan team back there. Luton all forward in the penalty area of Wigan there, apart from just Mel Donachie having a conversation with Les Seeley. So now, here we are, free kick, 62nd minute. Steen going to have a chip here, is he? Foster rather causing problems, being told to get back. And the whole Wigan team, apart from the goalkeeper, in one line, on the 6-yard line. Free kick to Luton, indirect, chip forward, and comes off the wall. It was a good chip, but it didn't get very far. And now Harford gets up there, but robbed. And a nice piece of moving up the flank until finally is put out of touch. Thrown back in again. Back to Kingsley Black.
Tea time with Terret.
That's right. My special guests on the programme today are Roy Shackleton and Tony Reid. Tony is the former goalkeeper at Luton Town, of course, both of whom are now commentators for a unique service which you won't find anywhere else, broadcasting the football matches from Kenilworth Road to the Luton and District Hospitals. This is their 33rd season, so they've been going since 1954. And Tony, which hospitals do you serve?
Well, we serve mainly in the Luton and District area. We serve Hitchin. I think Roy's a better, more knowledgeable man than me to tell you exactly who we do serve.
Right.
Yes, I'm the old man of the double act here because I was in at the beginning. Luton and Dunstable, St Mary's, the Farringdon Wing. We can pick up Lister at Hitchin if they want us, and we serve the Old People Centre in Park Street when they need us, and also the Mount in London Road. So that's our link-up.
I have to put it to you, there are 2 local radio stations in this area, of which we are one, and you're providing another service. Isn't there a danger of there being overkill?
Well, we considered this just 3 years ago, really, because when Radio Bedfordshire came on the air, and the other local one, which we won't mention, were already broadcasting. Pardon, who did that? We thought that maybe it was time we looked at ourselves after 30 years. Was it still viable? Did people still want 90 minutes commentary? So we did a survey at Luton Dunstable Hospital one night with the Toddington Rover Scouts. Incredible. We went to every bed, saw every patient with a prepared questionnaire, And at the end of the day, a large majority said, yes, we want to hear 90 minutes football. We don't want a half or little interspersions. We want to hear. So we were encouraged, and we carried on, and we're still carrying on.
What's pleasing for me is, I don't think it's been this season, but to commentate to a blind man who was sort of tuned into us in the match, sitting in the main stand.
That's right.
And he came in and started just to get the atmosphere.
Mm-hmm.
And he was getting the commentary. And I think that's very satisfying as far as we're concerned.
Just about said it all, really, doesn't
Yes,
it?
yeah.
That's right.
What happens, Tony, during a match? How long do you spend actually commentating?
Well, Roy and myself, we do 15 minutes, the first 15 minutes, and then the middle, and then the last 15 minutes of the first half, and then we change over. So we do 45 minutes each, with the 10 minutes at half-time being filled either by us two or another one or a guest. And we've had several guests. We've had one or two who could make very good commentators themselves. Jake Finlay was one of them. He did an excellent job.
If you understood his brogue, yes, carry on.
And although I don't remember it, Eric Morecambe came up.
Oh, yeah.
I wasn't commentating when Eric came.
Yeah.
And he filled the commentary box with laughter, as he obviously would do.
He's a bit of a natural, isn't he? Or
Oh,
was.
he was, bless his heart. Yes, he would always come up when we asked him to, but when he got on the mic, you couldn't get it back again. It was 15 minutes, cracking gags all the time, and the teams were out and it's kicking off, and you had to tug the mic away. A real ham, but a lovely bloke.
So what time do you get there, Roy, if the match kicks off at, which it does, 3 o'clock?
We're in the box at 2:30 to check everything out, make sure we're all right to the equipment. Then we have a little break to sort of study the programmes, study the other teams. We get the team news at 2:30 when the referee must know the teams by 2:30. So soon after the team's been handed to the referee, we get it up the top, and then we can look at any changes, positional changes or substitutes and so forth.
I have enormous admiration for you both because I've tried commentating and it's the most difficult of all the broadcasting arts, it seems to me. It's horrendous, I think.
I think it's an acquired taste, John.
How do you work out, particularly when a new team comes, you know, who is who?
Well, that's it only takes a few seconds, a few minutes, really. Each team, especially in the first division, it's very, very easy because at least 6 players are stars. And
Yes,
you can
good point.
forget the goalkeeper because you can pick him out. He's got a green shirt normally. And it just takes a few minutes in the first division. It's probably a lot harder when the 4th division teams come, or 3rd division teams, when they've got players that are not so well known. But in the 1st division, it's quite easy.
Well, Tony Reid and Roy Shackleton will be well known to people now. Who else does the commentating at the moment?
Well,
We've got Alistair Fairley is a gentleman who's joined me this year. He's an apprentice commentator, and I must comment on him. He's doing a very, very good job indeed. And Roy has got...
I've got Peter Alexander, another young man who's learning the trade. Tony and I, you see, were a double act for several seasons. Now they split us up.
They've
and given us
split
an
you up,
apprentice.
haven't they?
Yes, we've got an apprentice each, but they're doing very well.
Yes, they're quite good.
There's a very good story about how the original team was picked back in 1954.
Oh, yes, that's well worth recalling. When the scheme was set up between Tockhatch and Rain Table, we asked for volunteers who may like to try themselves as commentators, and about 4 to 15 from memory, people volunteered. Now, each made a 15-minute tape on an actual game in progress, and a neutral panel comprising professionals. Sid Owen was one, I remember. The manager of the team, a local referee, a neutral panel listened to those tapes, which were numbered, no names. Then they selected 6, and they were the first 6 commentators. I'm glad to say I was one of the first 6, and I'm still here.
Yes. And do visiting teams make use of your services?
Yes, they come, Liverpool, Leicester, Birmingham, Southampton. We've got very good relationships with these clubs. And we try, obviously, not to be too biased towards Luton.
Oh, we're very fair.
But on occasions we have slipped the odd one in, I think, Roy.
Yes, well, we are Luton.
We're certainly not as biased as the American Ryder Cup commentary team. And
That's very true.
Yes,
very
here,
true.
yes.
But that's a point, John. To be impartial, I think, is not always possible. We're involved in the game, although we try and be detached. Yet it's our club and our team. And sometimes maybe we do err on the side of the town, but we try to be impartial. When the other people make good moves, we say so.
That's right, yes. We just hope that they don't make too many.
Well, listen, I hope you have a terrific 33rd year. Thank you for talking to us about it. It is, I think, an area of broadcasting that people will not know about generally, so thanks for explaining about it today.
Thank you, John.
It's very important that you do talk about these things. People don't know that they're otherwise. So best of luck to you both. Thanks for coming.